I'm here today to talk about broadband infrastructure, but all I really want to talk about is my son, Clayton. Clayton's only 21 days old today, and if I seem a little tired, it's because I haven't been sleeping. And in my sleepless nights, as I've been thinking about this talk, I've also been contemplating what this little guy is going to need to participate in the global economy and out in the world. I'm 33 years old, and when I was Clayton's age, which is really not that long ago, I didn't have internet, I didn't have cellular phone, and you couldn't get cable TV in most places in Maine. All that's happened since. My parents' generation, who grew up by the flicker of the television in the heyday of broadcast TV, had a very different childhood than their parents, who grew up by the flicker of the kerosene lamp. And I can begin, when I think about that generational shift, to think about how Clayton's upbringing is going to be in this new world. This new world was changing, and I, as a young guy, as a Clayton-age guy 33 years ago, already could start to see the forces of change acting on Maine, of globalization, of cheap overseas labor, of inexpensive coal power. Those things were taking Maine from an exporter of industrial-age products to a consumer of information-age content. And although the information age is in its infancy today, Maine very much has seen the sunset of the industrial age. I worry, and I'm fearful, that the investment that my parents' generation made in airports, that the investment that their parents' generation made in highway systems, that their parents made in railroads, and that their parents made in canals, has no modern-day analog for Clayton to participate. In Maine, when we think about the industrial age economy, what we see along the roadsides reminds us that what defined us before, the red brick mill on the side of a river producing some kind of finished product, has now either stood vacant for some time or been redeveloped for commercial or residential use. And in this case, this is a restaurant that's no longer painted red anymore, it's now yellow, is no longer the most competitive place to produce things like finished paper and shirts and shoes and canned fish. So as we look at what's in the future for Maine, as we look at the entire country transforming from a manufacturing powerhouse to an innovation economy, we start to see that places that used to be the home of manufacturing and under the same roof had product development and financing and marketing and engineering. We now see that while we may have lost some of the commodity manufacturing, we are succeeding in producing green power, in precision manufacturing, in engineering, and all of the things that go into bringing innovation into a place where it can be commoditized, even if those commodities aren't produced here in the US or in New England or in Maine. So as we think about the innovation economy, we start to think about how do we bring ideas from the creative process all the way through the place where they can be commoditized and brought to people where they can create value out into the world. And increasingly, we're doing that with distributed teams that communicate over distance. Increasingly, we're consuming the content that's created by these distributed teams here in Maine. And those successful products, and some of the most successful products, never even make it into a place where they need to be manufactured in bulk using commodity labor. So here in Maine, we know that we're going to buy content from other places, we're going to enjoy online banking, we're going to listen to the radio, and those things might have been manufactured with white-collar workers like software developers and graphic designers, and never have even stepped foot in a factory. So the exciting opportunity for us is that we can now participate in manufacturing something new. And I want to talk a little bit about today about what our content might look like. And to talk about what our content might look like, I want to talk about somebody else's content because it's familiar to all of us. And for a long time, there's a community that has been very successfully manufacturing content, ideas really, and distributing them to others, and have become quite prosperous. And obviously this is Los Angeles, where we get our movies and our television and our entertainment. And today, Los Angeles creates these things. The people in Los Angeles endeavor to create all of this content, and they ship it to us over the internet and we pay handsomely for it. In Maine, we have the opportunity to create our own content, and my eye immediately goes to my personal experience in business, which is in running a technology company. I have a technology company that today resides in a building that's also red brick and used to house shipping and receiving items like barrels and buckets and crates coming on and off schooners in the Portland Harbor. And today that same building is filled with 60 software and web developers, information security experts, telecom real estate specialists, radio frequency engineers, and fiber optic engineers. And when I was Clayton's age, 33 years ago, a lot of those specialties didn't even exist. And today they don't exist to serve a local market, they exist to serve a global market. And in my business, I think about the technology needs all across the world and how we happen to have 60 of these specialists sitting in a building here in Portland, Maine, but their market is global. And while they happen to be here, to reach that global market, they have to live in a connected society. And it's been a priority for us to seek out fast fiber optic connectivity. And that's, while expensive, it's at least possible for 60 people working in the same building. But as I zoom out a little bit on the city and I look to a residential neighborhood, I think a little bit about what is the importance to me as a business owner in having broadband. And I start to see some of the other businesses around me in the core of the city as I go out towards the residential neighborhoods. And I think internet to me is the same as good water and sewer is for a beer brewer, or a rail line might be for a paper manufacturer in a mill up north, or a distribution company might be located close to the turnpike. And as I zoom out even more and I look into individuals working from home or small businesses out in the neighborhoods, my gaze settles on my wife's home business. She's a consultant helping nonprofits market on the web, and her clients are also out in the world and not here in Portland. She's serving people in Washington, D.C., and in Boston, and in New York, and in Chicago. And as she seeks to upload fast video and pictures and graphic design, I think she struggles to do that using residential broadband products. And as we look at our small business community, there aren't small business products that can help us broadcast who we are out to the web. And when I look up and down the street, I see a doctor who can't provide telemedicine on a Saturday, and I see a documentary producer who can't upload their video, and I see a GIS or CAD draftsman who can't upload their prints to an out-of-state client. So this frames a problem, and the problem that I see is that we have an intellectual trade imbalance, and that is, it's pretty easy for us to buy content from others, from places like Los Angeles, but quite challenging for us to take our content and share it with others. And we have a network, a residential network, that reinforces this negative trend. And it does that by limiting the amount we can upload, but allowing us to download whatever we need. And I worry that we have the ability, just enough bandwidth to get our credit card number out, but plenty of bandwidth to get something in return. There's a reason for this. Our networks have evolved over 100 years of broadcast entertainment. Radio, television, cable TV, and web surfing. We went to the factory during the day and created value, and at home, as we relaxed at night, we consumed entertainment. The network is really set up for this. Imagine for a moment that in our neighborhoods, this broadcast is coming to us through a quiet neighborhood street. There's not a lot of traffic on it. Maybe the road's only wide enough for one car at a time. The world Clayton's going to grow up in is a 6-lane highway going up in each direction. And today, we don't have that 6-lane highway in Maine. It really needs to go in both directions and have significant capacity to carry what we want to create. So my hope is that we can create a balanced intellectual trade. This is where not only do we consume content from others, where we get what we need and we pay for it, but we also can take who we are and what we do and share it with others in other communities, and also be paid for that to bring things back into balance. And for that, we need a network that goes in both directions. We want to be delivering who we are, our innovation, our creativity, out to the world. So what can we do about it? The first thing is that the technology is easy. The technology tends to be kind of a noisy subject, but it's a little bit like banging two rocks together. There's this thing, fiber optics, and the one term that I hope I'll leave you with is fiber to the premise. Fiber optic, a thin strand of glass to the premise into your home. And this is something we can go out and buy. It's achievable, and the price of admission is relatively low. But it's not happening here, and it's not happening here today. When you look around at other communities around us, we do see it. It's happening in Asia, in Singapore, and in Korea. It's happening in Europe, in Spain, in France, in Scandinavia, and it's happening in the United States, in metro areas up and down both coasts. It's happening in the southeast US in small towns the size of Portland. It's happening in western Massachusetts. It's happening in rural Vermont, and it's even happening in rural New Hampshire. But it's not happening here yet. So what can we do about it? The first thing that the general political climate tells us is that let the market solve the problem. But I think the fact that we don't have fast fiber optics into our home today in this far-flung market is that the market has failed us. If the market was going to solve this problem, we'd have fast fiber optics into our homes and into our business. So why has the market failed us? Well, we have a 100-year sunk cost in what we have today. And what we have today are networks that are oriented towards giving us lots of content and not taking content from us. And since big telecom has us all as customers today, there's very few people that don't buy some kind of product, there isn't a significant market force to push innovation. So the innovation has to come from us as people who not only want to consume, but people who want to create and bring our value out to the world where people can get good value from it. So what have other communities done? Other communities have prioritized the need to get fiber into homes and businesses, and they've made modest public investments. And those modest public investments have come on the back of public-private partnerships, but they haven't come on the back of market forces alone. I'm excited about the prospect of us making a modest investment and giving Clayton the tools he needs to go out and participate and to do it from here. And my feeling is, as we hear from people today, we hear about all the creativity and the innovation and the things that are happening in all of the areas that we do to create, that we'll also have the opportunity to distribute that and share it with others, and that the price of admission is quite modest. Thank you.